What's up, y'all? So, I'm just sitting here waiting for a little bit of time to pass. I need this pre-workout to kick in. You're supposed to take it 30 minutes before a workout. I got here a little quicker than I anticipated. I needed to go plug up a tire. And that just pisses me off because, like, that's the at least 8th time in a 12-month period that I've had to plug a tire, change a tire, patch a tire, deal with flat tires. And that's just a testament to the bullshit that is in the road. Every time it's a big ass nail, a big ass screw, like, or the last time they changed my tire, they didn't screw the I forget what the name of that thing is where you plug the air in, the tire gauge or whatever that thing is called, child. And I had to buy a tool to tighten that up because there was a slow leak in that shit. So it's just tires. I really do believe, I've talked about this before on here, there needs to be some type of tax credit, like for car repairs, car maintenance, because that shit, the bill can pile up. And a lot of times, like, when I talk about the crack that's in my windshield, I've yet to get that fixed. I'm just being lazy. Because they say it can happen 2 times in the state of Florida. As long as you got full coverage insurance, it's free. As long as the crack is repairable. So, big ass pebbles flew at my car on, the highway several months back. Not my fault. I talked about this before too. Bought this car brand new. 2 days into having the car, a big ass fucking semi-truck tire flew and destroyed my grill. So it's just like things. And then every day you're on the road, like, and I think street sweepers sometimes, make it a little worse because you're not always sucking all that stuff up. You're moving it around. You're blowing it, And that's why I hate driving past areas where people are cutting grass and blowing grass, because I feel like that also adds to you pushing all of the foreign objects that were caked up in that little area. You're pushing it out. You're not going to get it all. That's why I hate, bad weather. If it's flooding, because all that flooding does is push all the bullshit that was somewhere else, and you end up running over that shit, and that makes us victims. And again, that shit can be costly. So again, we already pay, for us that pay car notes, we pay car insurance. Insurance rates are through the roof right now. I don't think I have to, preach the gospel on that. We're all feeling that. Insurance premiums are high as fuck right now. Car payments are high as fuck right now. I can't wait to have this car paid off. I want to trade it in and go back to the Camry, but I ain't got time. I'm almost done paying this note. I got close to 3 years left, and I'm done with this shit. I don't want another car payment. That's $480 a month, bitch, that I could be pocketing, saving, putting into an index fund, something that's going to help me. Okay? Especially since my rent went up. Like, come on now. Like, there needs to be some type of incentive. You want us to buy these cars. You want us to all be mobile, right? Again, stop classifying car ownership, hello God, as a luxury. You don't do that with homeowners. Homeowners get all kinds of tax credits. It's crazy the incentives they get. People who rent apartments, we don't get a tax incentive. We're helping a business. The same way homeowners are. You're helping some type of business in some way. So why can't we get tax credits, tax incentives? Like, there just needs to be more. And again, adding to that, like, just because you have kids doesn't mean that you're the only one struggling. Hello, single people struggle, if not more. We don't qualify for all of the shit that people with kids, married couples or whoever, business owners, like, we don't qualify for. But whatever, girl. It just, at this point, I'm tired of saying it is what it is, because then we become more docile to the facts. We become a little bit more socially conditioned to accept the crumbs of life. We deserve a lot more. Y'all want so much out of us. You want so much productivity out of us. You want us to come out here and kill ourselves 40, 50, 60 to 100 hours a week. to pay these bills and to pay these taxes. Then you want us to go shopping to help boost the economy. Then you want us to eat out at these restaurants with low quality fucking customer service and quality of food. You want us to come out here and do all these things, but again, wages ain't going up, everything else going up, and you still expect us to go on vacation and to spend in these tourist places. You still expect so much of a hardworking American person, but you don't want to give anything. You can now understand why the American people are upset that we're out here worried about everything else. We're worried about TikTok. We're worried about foreign nations and their bullshit wars that they got going on. We're worried about all the other things, lining other billionaires' pockets. They're already rich and wealthy. Like, come on, how many times does Bernie Sanders and others like him have to say, tax the wealthy, find their coin? And it should not be that difficult. There are more people in the social media space that work better than the FBI. Employ some of them to find out where these people's money is, tax the fuck out of them, charge them if need be, if you find some financial impropriety, you know, which I'm sure there is. When there's big money at stake, you can guarantee 9 times out of 10, hello gone, there's some corruption. When you end up following the money, you end up finding a criminal, bitch. But instead of locking them up, take everything away from them. Seize their assets, seize their property, liquidate that shit and give it back to the people. We're living in a very unfair time and have been for a long time. Sick of it. Like, the little things add up. Like, everywhere you go, there's this guy that I see pop up on my For You page in Atlanta. He's a parking enforcer or whatever, parking lot enforcers, and he boots people who, you know, park in the wrong spots. First of all, like, and it's 75 or cash. That's what he says. 75 call to cash. He's very rude, very disrespectful. I understand he has a job to do. He works for someone. He works for a company. Then that's how they get paid, and that's how he gets paid. I understand that, but to charge people to park somewhere, especially in a high volume area like Atlanta, it's difficult. The same way I don't agree down here, you charge people to park at the beach. Girl, that is public. Just because you put a plaza around here with all this bullshit around it, girl, that nobody really needs, requires, or desires, it's a luxury item. That's a luxury. But you want to say my car is a luxury, girl. It's not needed. Girl, please. You want to charge people to recoup the funds that y'all had to put up. Well, that's really all that is. You think it's pennies on the dollar, right? But those pennies on the dollar add the fuck up. Oh, girl, this is only $2 to park for an hour or two. Okay, but if every person, especially big tourist areas, that's millions of dollars they're pulling in every year just on parking. And they're just using that money to recoup what they've spent on that construction zone. Money that was actually allocated for that specific project. So why y'all need to recoup anything? Again, follow the money, you'll find corruption. Period. It doesn't make sense to me. They increase your taxes, you don't be realizing it, but when they do these roadwork projects, they're building these bridges, and you find out the following year that a new tax has been presented, you paying 2%, it may not mean nothing because it's so small, but if millions of people are paying that 2%, it adds the fuck up. These girls are out here lining their pockets and getting rich, and that's thievery. Because again, the state allocates funds for each district, each city, to rebuild. They all have the money, girl. It's already been given through taxpayer dollars. Then taxpayers end up paying that back. Why do you think the girls was telling y'all, oh, that stimulus check, you're gonna have to pay that back, and we already have tenfold. Well, Funky Don even say you end up paying, if you ain't gonna pay for it you gonna pay for it on the front end or the back end. Either way, you gonna pay. And that's just that's just the real talk of it all, bitch. Let's tell the truth. Period. Another thing I wanted to talk about, like, this month is kind of hard for me. And crazy is I try my best to block out certain experiences, especially if they were negative or dark in nature, because I already have a lot that, whew, girl. I already have a lot that weighs on me in this life. Excuse me. I want to tell y'all a story about some young men that I knew growing up. For y'all that don't know, you know, if you're just joining the platform and, you know, I haven't really spoke about my foster care experience in a long time. But I grew up in the system of foster care from a little boy. I was like 5, 6 years old, 4, 5, 6, around that area. And later in my teen years, I went to go live at this group home because I wasn't trying to be adopted. No. And I just, no. So I lived in the system, grew up in the system. That was my life. So I wanted to go live at this group home where I ended up meeting, it was an all boys group home, ended up meeting a lot of people. And some of them to this day, I have connections, relationships with them, friendships, brotherhood. Some have, unfortunately, well, most, not some, but most of them, unfortunately, have either, passed on, are really doing bad right now, just in a homeless sense, drug addicted sense, locked away in prison, jails, whatever. But these particular young men that I met, the first one I met was an older brother. Very nice, very talented, just cool. When I got to the group home, he was one of the first people that I met, and he showed me around. He was just really nice, good-natured. A lot of people are like, oh, he's kind of off, but I don't know. He just had a really good spirit about him. I gravitated towards him. He gravitated towards me. We talked often. He was much older than I was. He was actually on the way of aging out. So I think that's why they partnered him with me. They kind of felt like his nature and his wisdom and maturity and the fact that he had been here a while, he already knows the ins and outs. So from there, I ended up meeting his younger brother. Very young, very energetic, very wild, but very fun. Very fun, very fun. And then later on in life, I would learn that they had 2 other brothers. They were younger. They would come to move to the group home eventually later on. So it was nice to have all the brothers under one, in one space, right? Instead of being scattered out. Because a lot of times in foster care, you'll have that. That's why I advocate for group homes, the ones that actually are going to do a good job and love on the kids and really be there for the kids and help the kids. It's rare to find that now, but back then there were a number of them, very few, but a number of them that actually gave a fuck. And the whole goal in foster care, especially when siblings are at play, is we want to house them together. We don't want to separate them because all that does is further add to their trauma, right? Especially when we talk about separation anxiety, like kids have that. If they've been pulled from a home or they've been foster home jumping like I did growing up, you become used. I never unpacked my bags. I would never unpack my bags at all because I already knew that this was temporary. So you get kind of used to bouncing around. But if you have siblings, there's this obvious bond that you guys have, whether it be a trauma bond or whether it just be the sibling bond. But you guys have a shared experience, and I think that's where we're going to go with the trauma bonding thing. You have a shared experience. You guys know what it's like, And that's another reason why I didn't like foster homes, because if there weren't other foster kids present, like for my situation, everywhere I lived was older black, couples. They have their grandkids, their bloodline. It was very rare I was housed in a foster home that had other foster kids. If it was just what they called respite care. They would just, take care of another kid for the weekend, and that was kind of it. So I yearned to always be around. When I found out, there was group homes, I was like, child, let me get in where I fit in, because I'm tired of being around motherfuckers who don't empathize or truly understand what I'm going through. So at least if I'm amongst other, kids that experience what I experience, I would feel a little bit more comfortable in that space. So, that's why I ended up going to a group home, just to give y'all that. But, anyway, met all the brothers eventually, and then I would learn more about their story. They have a really dark, tainted past. Both of their parents had passed away when the kids were younger. They have other siblings throughout as well that I don't know them. I haven't met them. I met a sister, but child, she's batshit crazy. That's no tea, no shade. That's just is what it is. They never really associated with her because of that. And she was always in and out of insane asylums, child. But that's neither here nor there. So to learn that their parents died and said, I'm not going to get into those details. Some of those details I don't really know all the way through and through. It's been such a long time since I was privy to that information, so I don't want to go and, you know, paraphrase or even act like I know what I'm talking about in terms of what happened to their family. So I know they died at a young age in a very violent, tumultuous way. Well, as we would get older, when I was about 18 going on 19, I believe, still kept in touch with these boys. Now some of them are grown men. And the oldest one, the one that I met first that I talked about, he was going through some personal struggles and going through some things. And one thing I advocate on this platform a lot is when you're dealing with foster kids who age out of the system, who, you know, walk into the realm of adulthood, it's the instability, the emotional wreck, the chaos, the confusion, the doubt, the fear that we find ourselves in, because they don't necessarily teach you or give you the skills. And a lot of times we're not even ready to receive that information because we're still dealing and we're trying to be kids still. So I know that there's a rush for the system to teach us everything at one time, but a lot of times when we never had a childhood and we find ourselves amongst other teenagers or other kids our age that have experienced what we have, we just want to be kids, bro. So all of that serious shit y'all talking about, you know, adulthood, like, ain't nobody trying to hear all of that. We trying to play, we trying to have fun, we trying to experience, because now we're in a space where we can actually be ourselves, we can be kids. You know what I mean? And so when we finally do become adults, it's just like blank stare vibes. It's like, holy fuck, like, what do we do? So coupled with trying to deal with childhood trauma and walk the life of an adult, it can be a lot. I'm not going to get into the particulars surrounding this young man's demise, but it was just really fucked up in nature. They ended up finding, you know, him in South Beach, child, washed up ashore. One of the other brothers, one of the youngest ones, passed away from a medical condition that he had. Another brother was found strangled to death in the frozen cold snow of the streets of Detroit. And then the one that I would eventually get closer to, which was the second oldest. The weight of all of that darkness pressed on him so hard to where he would turn to drugs, he would turn to the streets. And I mean, this boy could have did almost anything he wanted with his life. He was smart, intelligent, he was funny, charismatic. And even through it all, through the years, he carried the weight of all of that on him. And life was difficult, but he dealt with it. And I think that's the problem here, is that on the outside, it looked like it was good. But when we started noticing the drug addiction and, you know, the being on the streets, and I saw him a couple of times here and there where I just knew that it was fucked up. But it's difficult to help someone who at the time doesn't want to really help themselves or acknowledge that they have a problem like that requires some type of help, right? So it weighed on him so heavy to where one day he decided to jump in front of one of our speeding trains. That train down here is controversial. It's called the Bright Line, because a lot of people before him and even after him were jumping in front of that motherfucker to off themselves. And it's so crazy because I think I had just saw him a couple months prior to that, and I think he was just at his lowest point. And I tried to give some words of encouragement, which at that time it was difficult for me to even muster up hope and inspiration for someone else because I was going through my own shit. But regardless of what I go through, if I see someone else having a dark moment, I have no choice but to try to be a ray of sunshine, you know, during their cloudy days, because I would want someone to do that for me. But I guess he just had enough. The month of March is not only the oldest brother's birthday, it's also his death month. And this month is also the death month of the second oldest brother. And on my way to the gym, like, they just popped in my mind. And then others that I've known, oh God. Oh God. Can't walk into the gym teary-eyed, girl. Others that I've known, that I've talked about on this platform before too, that have passed on. You know, one of my friends, Greg, shout out to Greg, and from Atlanta, when I lived in Atlanta, child. That was like my brother. That was one of the coolest dudes you'll ever meet. And to know that you get to a point where you can't deal. And this is where I talk about persistent drug usage and why I look at it as a demon. You know, when you get hooked on the drugs, it numbs the pain, right? Especially if you come from a lot of trauma. A lot of times you're not seeking the first high like most crackheads do, right? You're seeking to numb the pain. And when that numbness goes away, you want to numb that pain again. We got to do better with the system. We got it, and it sucks because everyone that I've known is of the black and brown experience. And when you see that, in working where I work now, I see mostly affluent white boys. Every now and again, we'll give a scholarship to some poor, unfortunate soul, but usually, let's just tell the truth, those are tax incentives. Those are tax write-offs. Let's just tell the truth. A lot of companies just give because they know they need that on their taxes, girl. They don't do it because they give a fuck. You know? I think my company does care, but, you know, at the end of the day, let's just tell the truth. When money is the root of it all, can we really trust anyone's sincerity? Let's just tell them. Cancer research doesn't give a fuck about your cancer. They care about that money. Hello. Let's just tell the truth. But I look at the system, and as it fails, our black people, our brown people, who come from a lot of fucked up, you know, traumatic things in their past, there's no help. There are no resources. There is no money allocated for their personal and mental development so that they can come out here and be successful. You know, it's almost, I want to relate it to, like, they knew what they were doing when they didn't give our ancestors the 40 acres and a mule. They knew that what that would do is that would generate a lot of generational wealth later on. They never wanted black people's descendants to become as successful, equally or greater than the whites. It's just the truth. And it's the same thing in the foster care system, and when it comes to children. Y'all don't give a fuck. You say you're for the kids, but you're only for the kids when it's time to raise money. I remember growing up, and they would parade us around these fundraisers, but we never got to see the benefit of that fundraiser. $4,000 tables, selling out. Annual holiday parties, selling out. Where did the kids? I remember they gave us some socks for Christmas once, but we just did a whole Christmas party where we were in the news. Y'all paraded us around. You know, the kids never reaped the benefits. We got to do better, because I feel like a lot of these young men that have passed on would still be here today if they were involved in a system that actually gave a fuck about their well-being, that gave a fuck about their placement in the world. And it's one of those things that you'll never truly understand until you experience it yourself. I guess you got to walk a mile in somebody's shoes. But it's just like when we tell you our experiences at these fundraisers or these galas or, you know, these events that are being hosted, you know, you guys act like some people may give with their heart, but you don't know where your money's going to. I guess I can't blame some people who actually are giving from the heart, but the intention behind this entire event is to just squeeze you of your money and use these kids as the pawn to tug at your heartstrings, open your purse, and give. The kids ain't gonna receive none of that. If the system really received the funding it claims to have received, social workers would not have 50 kids on their caseload right now making $35,000 a year. Y'all want to talk about teachers being underpaid? Anyone involved in social work, public works, anything that has to deal with state funding, there's there's nothing for those people. We want to talk about, oh, the good work we're doing, the good work. There's no good work happening. The only work that's happening is the process in which you're stealing funds to line your pockets, like we talked about earlier, at the detriment of these kids. That will eventually be grown men. You don't understand the souls that you are snuffing out with your greed, your obvious greed. You bitches should be ashamed of your motherfucking selves. I've witnessed so many. I had a young one. I told y'all about this one boy. I knew he wasn't in foster care, but we met when we were 18. I was working at Panera Bread. He was cool as fuck. Skater, actually almost went pro. When I came back from Georgia this was like back in 2017, I think. We linked up again. Come to find out, he was hooked on drugs, man. I let him stay with me for a while. I could not allow that no more because I would come home and my neighbors would tell me that he was down to the pool smoking crack. Girl, no ma'am. So I realized that I couldn't help him. So I contacted his father. I told him what was going on and I dropped him off there. Well, bitch, later on that night, he would steal his father's car and drive up the coast of Florida, girl, get arrested, and then a week later, I would be notified that he overdosed and died. And there's so many stories that I could tell y'all. There's just not enough time for that. And I don't want to dwell on the death. I want to dwell on what could have changed for these young men if the system actually gave a fuck. The different lives, these men probably would still be here. And a lot of them were good people. A lot of them didn't get a chance to even explore being good people because they didn't have the time, they didn't have the opportunity that a lot of people have. And it's like, y'all, a lot of people take shit for granted. That's what I'm trying to tell these fuckers at my job. Like, y'all are blessed. You are privileged beyond measure. Do you not know? A lot of y'all come from good lives, good parents. I know a lot of y'all don't have good parents, but you have somewhat of a good life. Take advantage, take the opportunity to really look around and open your fucking ears and your heart to listen to someone else's story. Because a lot of y'all be sitting around here tooting your nose up, acting like you're the grand poobah, but you don't. That's great for you. Your experience is your experience, and I'm not going to fault you for that. But a lot of y'all are really wandering around this life with blindfolds on, acting like you don't see anybody else's pain or suffrage, and you write it off. A lot of y'all prejudge folks and act like, oh, you were afforded the same opportunities. That not necessarily. Everyone's walk in this life is different. Everyone's understanding, everyone's growth process is going to be different. A lot of y'all bitches be sitting around here, tooting y'all nose up, sitting on your ivory towers, bitch, looking down at people, acting like you know their struggle, acting like you know what the fuck they've gone through. Well, why aren't they where they're supposed to be then? Bitch, who are you? I don't know. I'm not trying to cry right now because I've been dwelling on this for the past hour. And like, I really do want to cry just to let this shit the fuck out because I haven't cried in a minute. It's just sad, bro. It's just sad. I wonder sometimes, even when I don't try to wonder because it just hurts me that badly, I'd be wondering like what they would have been to at this point in life if given the opportunity. You know? What could have been? And the if only, you know? So I want y'all to hear me when I say That's why the fuck I go so hard when I speak truth and justice about these sorry ass politicians, these sorry ass fucking local leaders of ours, these state leaders, these fucking Congress leaders, these Senate seat holders, these fucking Supreme Court justices, the people that run the world, right? That run our world, right? These judges, all of these bitches, right? They don't give a fuck. Because if they did, we wouldn't be seeing what we're seeing happen right now. I don't care what, I don't know what news y'all watching. If you ain't watching the news, if you stuck on a rock like Patrick, bitch, there's a lot of injustice happening to our children. There is a lot. And y'all want to sit around a meeting table and talk about banning a social app, a social media app, versus doing something, agreeing on saying, you know what, let's protect the kids. Let's protect our women. Let's protect our black people. Let's protect our brown people. But we see time and time again, they can sit around and agree to make laws that really are foolish in nature, that stunt the growth of particular sectors because another sector has been swallowed up by that sector. So you don't like TikTok because it's taken over. The popularity's taken over Facebook and Instagram. All the other social apps have nothing on TikTok. But you don't want to sit around and have a conversation about why the kids are missing, why the kids are hungry, why black women are turning up missing, why black men keep being framed and put in chains and shackles for years on end, why there's a difference in treatment in the legal system as it pertains to black people and brown people. You want to know why your local soup kitchen or your local 211 area, whatever that shit's called, don't have no funding, no rental assistance, no light bill assistance. They don't have any up-to-date groceries in the pantry for you and your children to come and eat something. Girl, ask those questions to your local leaders. If they're not, if they have a track record, if you've been suffering, like I talked about before, if we continue to see years and years later that there's no progression for the everyday person, then it's time to vote these hoes the fuck up out of here then. That shows they never had your best interest at heart. What's the point of them if they're not really going to carry the weight of the interest of the people that voted them into that particular chair, right? If you see that 5, 6, 10 years later, look at all these old decrepit hoes that were sitting at the address of the nation, child, with Joe Biden. All of these 100-year-old chicken neck bitches running around here making rules and regulations and policies and procedures for our life. They're out of touch. They're not up to date on what the current human experience is. And a lot of that shit is they're heavily aware. But guess what happens? It doesn't serve their personal interest. Don't we talk about that in politics and being a lawyer, being a judge, you got to come from an unbiased perspective because you are voted in by the people. So you serve the people, you serve the public, and the public is what? The public is an array of belief systems, opinions, backgrounds, cultural experiences. So when you're in that powerful seat and you're making laws for your constituents, the people that put you there, you need to be doing shit with them in mind. Not because personally, or your colleagues like, girl, you better vote for this gas bill because we're going to get a hefty check. Those kickbacks. How do you think, girl, how is it that these particular public servants are getting paid 6 to 8 figures? How is that possible? Your salary is based on taxpayer dollars, but then y'all say we don't have any money. We don't have any money because you got it all. You stole it all. Period. That's end of fucking story. That's as simple as it gets. Again, we're not living in the world of complexity. We're trying to simplify shit. And that's very simplified. It's that simple, bitch. They're stealing. They're lining their own pockets. They're creating further generational wealth for their family, their bloodlines, at the detriment of everyone else. They don't give a fuck. Anyway, that's all I got time for. I just had a moment, and again, I'm gonna try to think about different things as I get into the gym. But them boys just fell on my mind. And I hope and I pray that they are somewhere together, happy, stress-free, pain-free. I hope that you guys are, you know, looking down at the ones that did love you, because I love those boys. I really did. We had our moments here and there, as every, you know, teenager does. You know, I got in a fight with one of the other ones. I used to cuss the little brothers out because they were bad as hell. You know, the oldest brother, you know, he understood why I beat up his brother child, because he had it coming. Okay, but we all remained friends at the end of the day. Good young men, great spirits, great vibes. Never meant anyone any harm, never did anything that was fucked up like that. Just good boys who were misunderstood, who had a really fucked up start in this life. And I just hope that in their afterlife, it's more peaceful than the one they were living. And I think about y'all often. I think about y'all often. And I carry y'all with me. I gotta go, y'all. Be blessed, never stress. Have a great day. Yeah.